what we're hearing is that the tension that is built in sisterhood is what also makes the bond closer.
Yeah.
So I need Janet to be nasty to me. Hi, everyone. Before we get into today's episode, we wanted to take a moment to thank you for listening and watching. Whether you are an OG listener or someone who just recently discovered us, you are the reason we make the show and are able to keep it going.
If you want to get to know us even better and have a more premium experience, you can sign up to become an ABG Bestie, which is where you'll get our new audio episodes ad-free, early access and special discounts on merch, special shout-outs from us at the end of our show, and a chance to connect with us through our Dear ABG series, which is like our big sister advice column.
Check out the description notes of this episode for more details on how to sign up. But if you don't mind the ads and still want to tune in, all our episodes will continue to be available on all platforms. We appreciate you all and thank you so much for the support.
Hello, everyone. We are in a new studio space today. Shout out to Spotify. We're in their downtown LA location, and this is so cool. These chairs are so swivelly.
Right? The chairs are so comfy. I feel like we've got like an upgrade on all the tech stuff and everything.
I might be doing this for the entire episode. So
we'll be moving
if you're not
around
tuning in
more
on the YouTubes, you can check that out to see us swirling around this whole episode.
Yes. Today's episode is going to be about a topic that we get a lot of requests on, and that is female friendships. But we're not just going to talk about any type of female friendship. It is a very special kind of female friendship, and that is the relationship between sisters.
Something that distinguishes myself and Janet with the trio is that we do have sisters. So today we wanted to have a dedicated episode to talk about sisters, our dynamic with our sisters, and how that's evolved over time.
Yeah.
And something that I've been thinking to myself is I feel like having a sister does impact how you view female friendships.
Yeah.
Because you kind of have this like built-in best friend or worst enemy since day one. So having this archetype of a female in your life, like how does that impact how you view other females in your life?
Yeah.
And this is something I've been thinking about more recently, and I'm just so curious to like hear your thoughts and hear our listeners' thoughts on all of this too, people who have sisters. So we're going to dive into all of that. But first, let's just get into the details of our sisters. So you have a younger sister. Her name is Patty.
Yes.
Can you share how much younger is she than you? And also, what are some of the similarities and differences that you have in your personalities?
Yeah. So Patty is 36. I'm 38. So we're about 2 years apart, which is actually not that much, right? If you think about it. But growing up, 2 years can be really different when you're younger or older versus in your middle, like teen years. But I think a lot of people would say that we're usually on the surface, like very different. Some of the core things, she loves to cook and she's a really good cook. The other day for our family gathering, she made like Swedish meatball pasta. She made the like meatballs from scratch.
Wow,
she baked cookies with like homemade jam. Anyone who has watched or listened to our stuff knows that my most used item in the kitchen is a microwave. So
I was going to say egg in a cup.
Egg in a cup in the microwave. So yeah, she's definitely like, she's so fond of cooking and she's so good at it. And then also just like our taste in music. She is someone who is like, she's more into like screamo, like heavy metal music.
Screamo. I've never heard of that genre.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. If you look it up some videos on YouTube and stuff.
It's mostly screaming.
It's a lot of screaming. Yeah, it's like heavy metal type of music.
Right,
and I'm more of the like pop and, like dance music.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of just goes into the archetype of like, or that probably reflects more of just like our personalities growing up that were like really intensified in our teenage years particularly.
Yeah.
I was very much of this like type A, high achieving perfectionist. And she was much more of the, I'm going to go to like rock shows and like, be in mosh pits and stuff.
Wow. So different. So different.
Yeah. But the thing is like we share at our core, the thing that people have said about us that is very similar is that we both are very highly empathetic and very like sensitive. I think like soft-hearted or sweet has been used a lot. I think that comes a lot just from our family upbringing and our parents and the way that we were raised and some of the experiences that we had together.
Yeah.
But that's like we're, not that far apart in age, but also very different in our personalities, but share some core values and characteristics just from being raised in the same household.
I still find it hard to believe that we have an online store. It's such a surreal feeling seeing our hats being worn at festivals and our quarter zip loved by so many. I see y'all wearing on the airplanes and it's so cool. It's funny because when we started the podcast, we never had the goal to have an online store. It was just a natural progression for us. However, when launching the shop, it was a no-brainer and we went with Shopify. Shopify is a global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify has been there for us in every evolution of ABG. We currently have 9 collections on our Shopify shop, and we plan on sticking with them as we continue to grow and potentially test out new products. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ABG, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ABG now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/ABG.
How about you, Helen?
Yeah, so I have an older sister. She's a little under 2 years older than I am. So actually, we might be the same. I'm 36 now, and I think she's 38 too.
38, yeah. So we're the same, but just reversed, I guess.
Right? So this is a good episode about the reverse of a younger sibling versus an elder sibling.
Totally.
In this age range too, right?
Yeah.
So my sister's name is Annie. It's spelled A-N-N-E. There's no I. So a lot of people say Anne, but she hates that. So don't call her Anne. Her name's Annie. Immigrant parents. Messed up her name, but it's okay. Annie and I, we are so similar in so many different ways, but we're also entirely different people. And it kind of sounds like the same dynamic as you and Patty. Like, for example, if you were to give Annie and I a whole set of earrings, like a whole wall of earrings, we would more often than not pick the same earring. If this entire beautiful wall behind us just had earrings, we would pick the same earring. And I think that is just so wild because we've tried that many times that it has been the case.
Oh, interesting. Even whether it's jewelry or other things, you guys have similar taste or preference.
Yeah. When it comes to classic items, when it came to my wedding ring, Philip didn't ask me what style I wanted.
Yeah.
He asked Annie. And when I asked
he also
Annie,
asked us, me and
oh, did he? Okay.
But I think ultimately Annie was the reference.
So when I asked Annie, I was like, oh, you never asked me what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I
How
think
did you
she
know?
kind of had a feeling, kind of had a sense just based on her own ring. But she basically was like, I picked out what ring I'd want. And that became my ring.
Yeah.
And it was the most perfect selection. Holler. But I would say that we are just so similar in so many ways. If it comes to personality, we're both kind of hot-headed, kind of feisty, especially with each other. We both like to break out in random song and dance. And that's been the case for our whole lives. So
that is cute.
Now that we have children, we still do that.
Oh, you do that with
and they're
kids,
kind of
course,
what is wrong with you? Are you guys our moms? Yes, we are. We're always going to be this way. And kind of what you said about Patty too, I think we're both really empathetic people and we are diehard loyal people to the people that we love.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe our similarities. When it comes to our differences, she has always been the stable, consistent, older sister, nurturing type. And she's been that way since day one. And I've been kind of like Patty, not in mosh pits, not in, not listening to Screamo, but I was just so disorganized, so just all over the place and hanging out with the wrong people. And I was just such a complete opposite from her growing up.
Yeah.
And so we are so similar in so many ways, but also just entirely different people.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah, our dynamic sounds pretty similar. I think I'm definitely more like an Annie, which is I followed the rules. I was always the obedient one. You always think that you have to lead for other people. And then, Patty was much more of the, I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I want.
Oh, that's just so wild to think. Even now, that I have, my son.
Yeah.
And I'm am I going to put certain expectations on you? Or what is it that encourages you to become this sort of elder sibling type of person?
Yeah.
And I wonder if I'm going to be putting that similar pressure perhaps on my son as well.
Yeah.
That perhaps you and Annie received.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't know if it's if it was deliberate through the parents or maybe it was a generational thing as well. Or maybe it's just you're born into a situation where there is a baby in the family to take care of. So even if no one's telling you to do that, I think there is a natural kind of intuition to take care of.
Yeah.
So
I do see that in my sister's eldest son too. Like he is really
Yeah.
nurturing and caring of my son,
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
like 4 years younger than him. So I'm already starting to see that develop, like giving up certain toys so that my son can play with and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah. What is a distinct favorite memory that you have of Patty that kind
Mm.
of defines your relationship with her?
Oh my gosh. I had actually a really hard time thinking of like one powerful event or memory. I just have so many. It's like a collage, a photo album of like images that come to mind of all of the different like family trips that we took together. My parents like were, if you are, Southern California Asian person, you probably went to Vegas with your family for vacations a lot.
East Coast. I also went
Yeah.
like every summer Vegas with my family.
Yeah. You would
Yes.
come to LA. Yes.
Yes.
So I have just like summer after summer of like clips and images of like trips of going on these family vacations with her.
Yeah.
But one key one, I was looking through my photo album the other day. There was this my mom had this tendency to dress us in the same outfits because we're not that far apart in age. And then maybe, I don't know, it was like easier to shop for clothes with like the same, just buy the same one.
Yeah.
But we would often, she would often dress us up as twins. And it's like cute for a while, but then there gets to a point when you're like hitting kind of your teenage years, especially for the older one, you're like, this is kind of cheesy, you know?
Wait, you were still doing that as a teenager?
As like, I think as late as maybe like 10 or 11. So like preteen,
okay.
right?
Yeah,
but that's
yeah.
like, you're old enough where you're like, I don't want to be dressed
Yeah,
as my sister who's
for
like
sure.
7, and
Yeah.
I'm like 9 or something like that. But I saw this photo and there was this particular outfit and it was a pink dress and this like really frou-frou like pink dress and then these big pink like bows. And like in the photo, we were in like one of those like Vegas lobbies and they, Asian mom, she's like, pose so I can take a photo. So me and my sister were like reluctantly like holding hands, like doing this, and it was like, I don't know why we were like presenting, like it was like a dance thing or something.
Yeah.
But it was like that particular moment where I'm like, okay, I could see in my face, like this is when I started like being resistant. Like this is not cute anymore. And feeling kind of like going into a bit of like preteen rebellion. But it did like make me like, I think in hindsight, I think about those memories and how sweet it was that there's so many photos where we were dressed either the same or really similar. But then at that moment, it was this photo where like we're starting to kind of like separate and be different in our personalities and about to enter different phases of life.
Yeah. Did you always feel close to Patty growing up?
Yeah. And the thing is like, I think so. It's like sometimes hard to like go back to that memory. But like I always just felt like,
So you were okay with like being the twin and sort of being her
okay, I see.
sister and being her really good friend for such a long period of time. It wasn't until like 10 or 11
that I felt a sense of rebellion. I mean, I think when she was very, very young, I felt a sense of protectiveness. And then I think when I was maybe into like my later, like preteen, like maybe like from age like 7 to 10-ish, I was starting to maybe individuate more and feel and get a little bit more of the I'm just getting annoyed that this girl's always following me everywhere and dressing just like me.
So I was definitely on the receiving end of that.
I mean,
from my older sister.
Hi, ABGs. Are you looking for a new doctor? I know. That is one of those things on our to-do lists that can be a real drag. Maybe you're having issues with your skin and looking for a dermatologist, or you want to get your lady parts checked out and in the market for a gynecologist, or maybe you need a new dentist or eye doc. Either way, I know it can be really annoying and a challenge to find a new doctor. Might I suggest checking out ZocDoc, a free app and website where you can search and compare highly rated in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and much more. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. I've used ZocDoc and you should too, so stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/ABG to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/ABG. ZocDoc.com/ABG.
Did you guys have memories or do you have any moments where you remember like you and Annie kind of like would butt heads?
Oh, girl, too many, too many. So one distinct memory, I think I might have brought this up on the podcast before, is that we would throw little Tykes chairs at each other.
Oh my God, I did the same thing.
Like it was bad. We did not like each other for a lot of our adolescence and especially the angsty teenage years. We were not friends. And it's sad to say that, but it's hard to also
normal,
remember if that was the case, right? Because there were many times where we played really well together. We always played together. We played teacher a lot. We would like line up all of our dolls and teach, how to write the cursive X and read to our dolls and all of that. And we played well together, but then the ones that stand out to me.
Maybe it's just the memories that stick.
Yeah. Or maybe like the traumatizing ones where I'm like, oh my gosh, is this what a sister is like? Having a sister is like. But we were so, we were just not great. We would like scream at the top of our lungs, slam doors. Like it was bad.
Was this mostly teenagers?
I feel like it was younger too. Yeah. Like once we started to understand, maybe like middle school to teenage,
I think that's,
high school.
I would say that's when I was like 11, 12 and on. Those are the rocky years where things start to get really bad.
Yeah. I guess one other memory that, is coming up to me now is that kind of defines our relationship, which I feel like was both a best friend and a worst enemy at the same time.
Yeah.
Is that every day before school, she would wake up and before me, because she was able to wake up to her alarm. I feel like that's an older sister thing because I wasn't able to. But she would stand at my doorway, like the door frame.
Yeah.
And she would fall asleep there. Just being like, Helen, wake up. And then she was like my human alarm clock.
Yeah.
I would snooze her.
You're like, no.
Snooze. And then she would fall asleep at the doorway. And then she would just start getting really angry. And I still remember she would say such mean things to me. She's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, get up. Like, she would just be so angry. But every day, consistently, she would be at the door frame, making sure that I got to school on time, making sure that I was never late.
Yeah.
And so she cared about me.
Right.
But was still really angry about it.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, defines what a sisterhood dynamic is.
Yeah.
Where it's someone who loves you at your core and doesn't ever want to see you fail and wants to support you, but is gonna like be
kind of kick your ass to get there.
Kick your ass to get there, exactly. So that I think I had that during like I did her maid of honor speech. I'm pretty sure she included in the maid of honor speech for me too, this doorway situation. But I think that really does define our relationship.
Yeah, I like that. That is a really good example of someone showing you so much love. But then also, it can sometimes when you love someone so much, it makes you the angriest when they're not doing the thing that being taken care of.
Ooh, yes, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true. Romantic relationships too.
So it sounds like you and Annie are close. What do you think, like, was this something that was encouraged by your parents or like what do you think created that closeness in your relationship?
So we weren't close until college. It wasn't until college that we decided to be friends.
So all throughout, like when you were younger years, you felt like you guys were mostly just like butting heads a lot.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, she might say differently.
Yeah, she might remember.
Perhaps I'm just focusing on the Tykes chairs being thrown at me or me at her. But I would say that it wasn't until college, and she had gone to study abroad in Hong Kong. And I distinctly remember calling her from the bathroom of my mom's house. I don't know why that matters, but I was calling her from the bathroom and just asking her how her experience was.
Yeah.
And I remember that call, we were being genuinely nice to each other. Like we were genuinely nice. And I know that sounds so like, okay, well, shouldn't you be like that all the time? But I feel like with sisters, sometimes there's like an annoyance or like a rushedness or like a get to the point, like what do you want kind of a demeanor.
Yeah.
That, this one call, I think it sounded like she cared about how I was doing. I cared about how she was doing. And we were just being nice to each other. And I think in that moment, I realized, this is someone who has known me throughout all of my bad times and good times, and the fact that she still cares about like how I'm doing now. I think that moment to me, I said to myself, I want this person by my side for the rest of my life. And I want her to be not just a sister, but like a friend.
Oh, wow.
Her separation for me is what I think brought us closer together. Yeah. And from that point on, we've been nicer to each other.
You still show your love with like some of that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But we have never been closer. Yeah. And I feel really lucky to just have her by my side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really, really like that. I think that's interesting that that you started your relationship with this kind of like more butting of heads. And maybe it's like when you're younger, you're just easily focused on being annoyed or, things like that. And then as there was like separation and time to really miss each other, then to really appreciate.
Yes.
And then I see how close you two are now. So it seems like it just like got more and more close as you got older.
I think so. Yeah. How about you and Patty? Do you feel like I mean, you said you were always close, like when you were younger, and then there was like a separation at 10 or 11.
Yeah.
How are you guys now?
Yeah, I think so. I see ours as kind of like a bit of a, I don't know whether you want to call it a curve like this or a curve like that, but when we were very young.
Sorry, I don't know what that was.
So, or like basically a change where it was like we were close and then we were not close and then now we're close again.
Okay.
I guess if that makes sense. But when we were younger, like we grew up on a street where there were like 3 or 4 other families of girls. And so we always played together. So we were in the same friend group. And I felt like we were really close. Like I almost like I don't have, I mean, I know we fought and things like that in the house, but maybe a lot of my memories were with her in a group setting. And so there was a lot of this like sense of protecting her and kind of like just a lot of joy, like positive memories together.
Yeah.
And then it's like when you get into when I started hitting like junior high and then into high school, I think those are the years where like 2 years apart really feels very different, right? When you're like 5 and 7, you're kind of still experiencing the same things and you're playing with the same friend groups and things like that. And then once you go into schooling and then you start getting into the teenagers, like 11 versus 13 feels a lot like you're going through different things, you know?
Yeah.
So I think during those periods, like we really became kind of our own people. Like I just have a lot of memories of being in my room and like shutting the door and her being like, "What are you doing in there?" And I'm like, "Leave me alone."
Yeah.
You know? Like I'm like listening to my like angsty music or I'm like writing in my diary or something. But then like when I reached like I think in our mid to late 20s, so it actually took a bit of time, like throughout high school and throughout like my college years and then her college years. And then even like, cause I moved away to San Francisco or like the Bay Area for work. So just actually the way that distance brought you guys closer, distance I think maybe separated us a little bit more. But then when I moved back to LA, it was that physical proximity. And then also maybe just where we each were in our lives where I feel like we just got a lot closer.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh. I love Patty. She is incredible. Every time I see her, she's like just a joy to be around.
He's very sweet.
Yeah. She's like Janet, but like, and you're edgy, but she has that like, that screamo edge to her, you know? Like, she's built different.
Yeah.
To all my wonderful parents and caregivers out there, let's talk about those unforgettable moments with your little ones. The first steps, the giggles, the boundless energy. But let's be real, with a growing and wild child, those moments can also mean unexpected messes, which is why I'm excited to share something that's been a lifesaver for us, Pampers Cruisers 360. Pampers Cruisers 360 is the must-have baby-proof diaper. These slide on like a pair of pants, unlike ordinary diapers with tabs or tapes that your escape artist can rip off. And trust me, thanks to its 360-degree stretchy waistband, it can help save you from some serious messes and keep your baby comfy. With up to 100% leak-proof protection, you can let your little one explore and play. And when it's time for a change, it's as easy as ripping the sides, rolling it up with a disposable tape on the back, and you're done. Simple as that. Try Pampers Cruisers 360 with the new Pampers Free and Gentle wipes for healthy baby skin. They're made from 100% plant-based cloth that grips the mess. With Free and Gentle, mess meets its match. Let your little one live wild and mess-free because every adventure should end in smiles, not cleanups. For trusted protection, trust Pampers, the #1 pediatrician recommended brand.
Was there a point that you feel like with Patty that your relationship kind of went from this childhood friendship to like an adult, more mature sort of friendship?
Yeah. I mean, definitely like I think us entering our like mid to late teen years. And why I say like, you know, it wasn't just that I was physically back in LA area and we were like closer to each other, but I think what we were going through in our lives also brought us closer. Like a lot of critical things that you deal with, I think in your early 20s or like mid to late 20s they're very like, depending on what's important to you, can be very like world shattering a bit, right? And for me, I went through a lot of like career shifts. So times when I came back and I was like back and like living in my parents' house, I had some really like down periods where I like felt super lost and just like couldn't find my footing. And she was really there for a lot of those moments. And as someone who like grew up with me, just like knows things that other people can't know, right? And knows how to say the right things, or even just like being there in the presence and like being at my parents' house with me was like really comforting. For her, like I was always like ultra focused on career. I didn't go through a lot of like heartache type things in my 20s. She, on the other hand, was like I think for her, a lot of the focus was on her relationship dynamics in her 20s. She was in a series of like really serious, long-term like partnerships and some like pretty like tumultuous ones. So she had some pretty bad breakups and like she was like living with people. So it's like hard like separating. And I just have memories of both of us, or like I have memories of driving to her in the middle of the night because she was like crying and needed someone to pick her up. And I also have memories of me in the middle of the night crying and her having to come pick me up. And both for like mine was like mostly like career related, and hers were always like heartbreak related. So I think that it was like in those moments of our like young adulthood that our relationship really changed from just being like, you know, like someone that I see when I go home to have dinner with my parents and is like a sister, but like, okay, this is a hard thing you're going through and you're there for me. And it actually, we're relying on each other now instead of like our parents maybe.
Yeah. And I wonder if for a lot of people out there who do have sisters, like that is the moment when you're a little bit older, you realize this person is not just someone I'm playing with and getting along with. It's like, and being annoyed by sometimes, right? Like this is the person who's going to be with me for the rest of my life, who understands me at my core, since they're the only ones that have known us since like day one, other than like our parents and other family members, but like they're the closest to us in so many ways. And so that relationship I feel like does grow and change when we're just a little bit older and when we need someone. And then they're like that person that's there for us.
I think especially like when you're going through things where you can't say what you need or you don't even understand what's happening, there is a way that someone who has gone through a lot of life with you can intuit, right? And
or even like a comfort that you have, knowing
they're familiar.
That they're just familiar, even in the silence, like that sort of support that they're just there for you. It means so much.
Exactly. Yeah. Actually, I think a lot of the times when we've supported each other, like I couldn't necessarily fix things for her in her life or her for me, but it was being able to sit with someone who felt like, you could just comfortable, and you don't have to do anything. All that we're offering each other is like, I'm coming to you and I'm just going to sit with you and that's it, you know, and it's enough and it's like what you need. So, okay, let's talk a little bit more into the dynamics of sisters. One of the common things that you kind of already touched upon, Helen, is that there can be a sense of competitiveness and like annoyance or like a butting of heads. Were you and your sister ever competitive growing up?
You know, that's a really interesting question because I would think that from the annoyance, there would be some level of like tension in competitiveness.
Yeah.
But I would say with Annie, I don't recall a feeling of being competitive. The only moment in our lives where there was perhaps like this overlap was when we both played volleyball. So she got into volleyball first and I was interested. And so she was going to try out and she had already been sort of prepping to try out. And then I decided to start prepping like 4 days beforehand. And I was like, I'm going to try out the same time as you. And I think she was kind of annoyed by that. I don't know.
Oh, you're like encroaching. She was like, I'm trying for this thing. And you're like, whatever.
Yes.
And then you end up getting it and doing it.
Yes. So we both got into JV. And I'm pretty sure the next year I got into varsity. And I don't think she did. But there was no level of like annoyance or upsetness that was the case. I never felt that way. And I also never felt it in me to be like shoving it in her face. Like, oh, I'm in varsity, you're not. That was just not something that I cared to flex.
Yeah.
So in that respect, I feel like we were always kind of just chill with competitiveness. And
interesting.
Maybe it's also that she was 2 years older, that there's not that much overlap. So it's not like we're going for the same jobs. It's not like we're going for the same like boys. Although I did like the boys in our class, and she hated that so much. I'd stalk the boys in her class on the school bus.
Oh my gosh. I thought I was going to ask about this socially because you guys had somewhat of a overlapping friend group.
Oh, she hated that so much because I was the annoying little sister that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And she just did not like that I liked the boys in her class. Anyway,
so maybe there wasn't competitive on your side, but maybe for her, she felt a little bit.
I do wonder because I never asked her about the volleyball thing. I never asked her like, did you ever feel weird that like I kind of just
went in and easily and kind of went up and got the higher position
and did all that with volleyball. But maybe Annie, if you're watching, let me know. But I don't think I ever felt any like jealousy or weirdness from her.
Yeah,
and maybe she liked the boys that I liked too. But that never became anything, so I don't think so. But competition-wise, I don't think so. How about for you and Patty?
Yeah, I also didn't feel a lot of competitiveness, even though I feel like 2 years apart is enough where you're close, where you should kind of have some, right?
Yeah.
But to your point, I guess we didn't like, I never felt like we were going for the same things. I will say the only thing though was that like I became really academically focused. And I think some of this is because I'd pick up on like, you're looking for your parents' approval, right? My parents were really highly focused on academics. I mean, they would say to my face like, you do your best, whatever. But I could pick up that was a thing of value in our family. And oftentimes she like didn't care about school, but she just naturally did well. So she would naturally test into like the gifted and talented program. And I remember telling her like, I think when we were like prepping for like, I think it was early as like second grade or like third grade, I was like, it's going to be so hard. Like you're gonna get so stressed out. And then she would get in and she'd be like, this is like whatever.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I think maybe internally for me, there was this like, yeah, like once again, like I'm trying so hard. I'm like the Annie where like, I prep and I'm like doing all this stuff. And then here comes the second, like the younger sister who just like whatever and does even better than I do without even trying.
Wow. Okay. So this is where we are different. So Annie was actually, school was easy for her.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in my mind, she was sort of this like role model type of person that I kind of just wanted to emulate or be.
Oh, wow.
Because everything just it felt like it came so easy to her.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I literally followed in all her footsteps. Volleyball, Boston College, went to the same school. She did accounting. I did finance because I was like, it's kind of related.
Yeah.
And she was just that person for me. I struggled a lot in school. I think for a period of my life, I had like legit OCD/perfectionism issues. When for example, when I was writing papers, because back then we had to write our papers.
I know. And like learn cursive.
Yes. Whenever I dotted my periods at the wrong place, I would erase it and write it over again. Whenever my T's were not crossed perfectly, I would have to erase it. So I was always up to like 2 a.m.
Oh, perfecting.
Just perfecting everything. And even when it came to like reading books, even though I could read, I had to feel like I fully absorbed the page before I could move on to the next page. And so even to this day, Annie always makes fun of me. She's like, remember that period of time when you couldn't read? But like,
I relate to that actually.
Do you?
I definitely, there was, I think because I saw how easily she would just like fly through things.
Yeah.
I became ultra focused. I think in like junior high, I have a lot of
Okay.
memories of being like super obsessive with my homework, staying up very late. And reading and like rereading and sometimes being like, do I really understand this? And
I thought it was only me.
No, I definitely, there was, because I think it's like, I don't know. For me, it only came through mostly in academics. So I don't know that it came through anything else, but it was this sense of like,
Same.
oh no, am I like, or maybe it's like, because it was so easy for her, I'm like, is there something wrong with me? I need to be able to.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Jen and I are now the same.
Yeah. But I was definitely, I think our relationship was like, she didn't really try or care very much. And I became the one that like was the try hard. Like, and she didn't necessarily follow my footsteps either. I think she just made up her mind, like, I just like to, like, you're going to be this person that's going to be like high achieving and kind of do all those things. That's just not my path. And we just, and so she would kind of went off and did her own thing. And then I went off and did my own thing.
Yeah. I love actually hearing about like other people's sister dynamics because like mine is all I've ever known.
Yeah.
So hearing the details of you and Patty's relationship is just so interesting.
Yeah.
Can you recall a time when Patty supported you through just like a really difficult period of your life?
Yeah. I would say, I don't know if it's like recent anymore, but within the last year, I had like a really big breakup. And she was really, really there for me during those periods. And it was very simple things, just like by being present. I think it's like, once again, like we said, when your sister is like that person who just knows things, she doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Her just being there, she understood, right?
Yeah.
And probably some of it was also, like I said, like in our 20s, I was so like career focused and those were all of my struggles and challenges. She went through a lot of like relationship romantic struggles in her 20s. So I think she could understand.
She knew what to do.
Yeah. Or she understood what I think I just needed permission also to like grieve and to be like lost a little bit and to be sad or to even just like look like I'm okay. You know what I mean? And I think she understood that because she had gone through herself really like really big breakups.
Yeah.
And so I was even just like, she's like, just come over and just hang out. And I remember I would randomly just go to her apartment and she would cook for me. She's like, well, I'll make you a grilled vegetable, like mozzarella, like sandwich. And, we would like watch movies together. And some of it is like, she'll be there to listen, but some of it is just your presence, And that was like really, really big for me, I think. Yeah.
Was this the recent breakup?
Yeah. It was a recent breakup.
Yeah.
I think once again, it's like, she understood, having gone through a lot of like those like bigger breakups, and especially when you like intertwine your life with a partner and you're like living with them.
Yeah.
Like I have memories of picking her up in the middle of the night from having a fight with her boyfriend and she's like moving out and she's got like half the furniture, half her stuff in her car. So I think she just, it was just being able to to be there and giving me permission to grieve and then allowing her presence to just like give me comfort, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be the empathetic person that she is too, like we mentioned
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Patty.
How about you? How about with Annie? Was there any particular time like where she was really there for you?
Yeah, this is also a more recent experience too, and I shared this on the Spill the Baby Tea podcast. But when I had my miscarriage, like it was so tough to share with anyone. But I
Yeah.
think Annie was like the one person that I even remotely like wanted to kind of share it with.
Yeah.
And I know it's like difficult on the receiving end of such just terrible news, especially because she had never gone through something like that before. So I was a little bit nervous of like, oh, ooh, like is she going to react a certain
Mm,
way that perhaps I needed in that moment? And
mm.
I was a little bit nervous, but then also knowing Annie, I was like, she's exactly the type of person that, or the person that I wanted to tell. And the way she responded was just, I don't know. It's weird to say it's perfect. It's a perfect
Yeah.
response, but I think in that moment it was. Like the way that she comforts you is that she will listen and grieve with you rather than trying to fix your grief.
Yes.
And that is
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that I think we've talked about a lot more like on this podcast and even between us as like friends and stuff,
Yeah.
that is so important during times when you're just kind of in the heat of it and going through it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Annie does that really, really well. And
Mm.
another thing that she did was, I just didn't have much to say. And she was just like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to come over. I'm going to bring, things that you probably need during this time. She
Yeah.
didn't ask me what I needed. She was just like, I'm going to come over. I'm going to bring pads. I'm going to bring a meal. I'm going to bring
Mm.
Tylenol. And I'm going to watch your kid for 2 hours. Just, lie down, go to sleep, do nothing if you want. Like,
Mm.
just be, like you were saying too, right? Like,
Yeah.
just to be present and to just like be.
Yeah.
And that's how I had felt with Annie, where that was exactly what I had needed. And I think even that story alone, like, kind of defines who she is as a person. Like, she has always been the elderly, nurturing type. And she would do that for like her closest friends too.
Yeah.
She's just like, drop everything. I'm going to come over and help you out. So that meant a lot to me. Because that was just a really difficult period of my life. And Annie showed up for me in all the ways that I think I needed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I see this through line of like both Patty and Annie being able to hold space for us. What
Mhm.
you said about not needing to fix your grief, but letting you just experience the grief. Like Patty is so good at doing that as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see that with her friends as well. She's okay to sit with you in the pain and the discomfort, in the we're not going to try to fix this. This sucks, and I'm going to
Yeah.
like validate for you that this sucks and this
Yeah.
is shitty, right?
Yeah.
And that's I think that is something that a sister can do really well, and it carries over in like female friendships too. Sometimes just to be
Mhm.
able to be there for your friend and let them grieve and not try to like have to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we hear this term like sisterhood a lot that's used, right? And oftentimes women who are like chosen sisters.
Mhm.
What do you think are like the similarities or differences between those two types of sisterhood?
Okay, so this is what I was trying to get at, like at the beginning of this episode, about whether or not sisterhood and friendships are related or
Mm,
similar, or are they just like completely different dynamics?
yeah, yeah.
Because growing up, as I've mentioned, like my sister and I, we fought a lot, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And her being one of the closest females in my life, I was like, oh, is this how mean girls can
Oh,
get?
yeah,
And so
yeah,
I think
yeah.
growing up, I always had a lot of female friendships, but I was
Yeah.
always kind of fearful of them
Oh, interesting.
because of the
Yeah.
dynamic that my sister and I had. I was like, oh, it's the real person like gonna come out one day, and
Yeah,
is
I
she gonna be as
see.
mean as Annie is to me, or that I am to Annie?
Yeah.
You know? And so a lot of my childhood, and I still remember this, like I would be like writing notes in my school binder, just letters to myself saying like, "Oh, I hope my friends are nice to me today." Like I was
Aw.
always a little bit scared, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
of
yeah.
friendships.
I could see that if you have a lot of tumultuousness with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that has kind of trickled into my adult life where perhaps there is a little bit of a wall up,
Yeah.
that distinguishes or defines a friendship versus a sistership,
Mm.
if that's the right word,
Yeah.
like a sister dynamic. Um, and the more I think about it now, and again, this is like a recent thought, so I'm so
Working
curious
through
what
it.
people are thinking about this. I know
Yeah.
I've thought to myself, I need to go to therapy for this. But now that we are sort of more grown and in this more mature relationship with my sister, and we have this unbreakable bond that we've
Yeah.
been able to build, I also don't feel like I can put certain expectations that I put on my sister onto my friends either,
Ah.
if that makes
You
sense.
see more of a difference between the two
I
relationships.
do.
Yeah.
And that to me is, I don't know if it's an uncomfortable feeling for me because like I love my friends and I would do anything for my friends as I would do for my sister.
Yeah.
But there's still that little bit of a wall, I think,
Mm.
that distinguishes a friendship and a sisterhood.
Yeah.
And a part of me feels like it's because with my sister, if she were to be mean to me or disappoint me, it wouldn't hurt as much as if a friend did the same. And you know how a lot of people say like, oh, friendships, they fizzle out, friendships are always kind of fleeting and people move on and it's okay. But that narrative is not the same for a sister.
Right.
It's much harder to have a sister breakup.
Yeah.
And so friendships to me feel a little bit more fragile in the sense.
Yeah.
Like they are a little bit more, you got to be a little bit more like delicate with it.
Yeah.
And that's where I am more considerate of boundaries that my friends have, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
But with my sister, it's like you love hard, you fight hard, and you forgive fast. And I feel like with
that. Love hard,
friendships-
fight hard, forgive fast.
Yeah. And I feel like with friendships, that's a lot harder of like a formula to come by.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. I think, the same way, like I think about maybe, with my sister, I feel like I know that we can pull the card of like being really mean and nasty to each other.
Yeah, which is not healthy. But at the same time, I feel like that is what having a sister
But that
is
also
like.
creates a bond, right? Because to your point, like you're like, I can be really mean to this person and they're still going to be there.
Yes.
Or I can snap at them, or I can like do whatever and they're still going to be there. And then with friendships, that's not always the case because you're not formally tied together, right? So maybe there can be a bit of a fear of like, if they don't do the right thing or I don't do the right thing, maybe they won't be in my life forever, and that can be really scary.
Yeah. Do you feel that way with like friendships? Having that sister dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, I think I mean like I like with Patty, I do feel like I don't ever try to, right? But I might be impatient.
Yeah.
Or like when she's impatient, I think like I will take it a little bit more than no. I mean, I feel like I'm generally with like my friends too. I will be, if someone's like has like things that annoy me or stuff like that, like I learn to just like accept them for that, I guess. But maybe it's like with my sister, I'm less afraid of being nasty. And I'm not going to really do that with friends. And that's more of just like a personal, but maybe on a psychological level, it's like knowing that if I do that, I might lose this person versus my sister. I can do that and she won't go away.
I've been thinking about this a lot. So I'm getting into the psychology of all of this and how having a sister like impacts your female friendships.
Yeah.
What do you think is the difference then between like a Patty and a me?
Yeah. I think it's more that I'm okay to feel nasty around Patty. I won't do that so much.
Okay. What we're hearing is that the tension that is built in sisterhood is what also makes the bond closer.
Yeah.
So I need Janet to be nasty to me.
Maybe it's the release of tension, right? Like, because it's like around her, I would be okay to just like do whatever. And I'm still a little bit more like buttoned up, I think.
Maybe or just... I feel like it's either buttoned up or you're considerate of the certain boundaries that your friends have like kind of put up.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the thing is like I don't want to cross boundaries too much. And maybe it's the fear of like I just respect a lot more of, or I feel the need to respect a potential boundary more. And then with her, I'm kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, because it's a mutual though with your sister. It's like you're mutually, the boundaries are loose. Loosey-goosey. It's just like step all over them, right?
Yeah.
But with friends, I also hold a harder line. And I'm so curious if other people here like feel the same way with their sister dynamics and their friendships. Because that's something to me I'm still trying to figure out.
Right.
And I'm talking through now on this podcast and trying to understand more of, because like even with like our friendship, and I've talked to Mel about this many times too. She's like, because she doesn't have a sister.
Right.
So she's like, how is Annie different from me? And I tell her, I think I'm just like, I don't know, that openness of being more impatient or saying things that might not be so well received, not having that filter.
Yeah.
I think does bring you closer to someone.
It does.
And there's a fear that if you do that with friends, they'll leave you.
Yeah. Same with a romantic relationship, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like to your point, being able to, I think it's the challenge of being vulnerable is greater with friends than it is with a sister.
Yeah.
And for me, at least, some of it is just like, I think growing up with her for so many years, like she has seen all the worst parts of me. I can't, as much as I can try to whatever, you can only maintain face for so long if you're in the same household.
I think that is what it is. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I'm like, you've seen this is not even the nastiest that you're seeing from me. So I'm going to give it to you because you can take it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your birth order being sort of like the older sister, that actually impacts how friends see you? Sort of this
Mm.
like elder sister, more, I don't know, clean cut? How would you say it? What's
Yeah.
like one word to describe an older sister? Responsible, more
Responsible.
responsible. Yes.
Yes. Oh, I feel like sometimes I don't know how to separate my personality from like the oldest daughter, like
Mhm.
archetype or
Yep.
stereotype
Of an immigrant family.
of an immigrant
Also,
family. Yeah.
yes.
I feel like that's like me to a T in a lot of ways. Like
Yeah.
being reliable, responsible. I still like a lot of my friends growing up in like college and young adulthood all describe me as like, you're really reliable, you're really responsible. I know I can
Yeah.
always depend on you. You're always there. You're very level-headed. And then even growing up in grade school, I remember like my report cards were always like, she's very conscientious, she's very organized. And so I don't know
Mhm.
what part of it is just my core personality and what part of it comes from being the oldest daughter,
Yeah.
or being an older sister, where I feel like I just always am wanting to take care, not take, it is taken care of, but I think more so it's an innate, like I can't shake that I feel responsible.
Yeah.
And I think that's with my friends as well. That's why I want to, I don't know if it's like being reliable or whatever it is, but yeah, I feel like I need to be there for them.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
almost feel like I'm responsible for their well-being.
Yeah.
And even in like group situations, like when we go out and stuff like that, if we like, you know, earlier years we would like go out and party and stuff. There's a need of like, I would sober and be like, is everyone okay? Does everyone have like,
No,
is
you
everyone
be
in
drunk and you
I
be
mean,
watching out for people, okay, girl? You did not sober up. Just
sometimes,
kidding.
yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely as like a friend on the
Yeah.
receiving end of an elder sister, Janet. Um, Janet, we always say is like our big sister. She is the one thing that I really appreciate about you, not one thing, but like I really appreciate how easy it is to talk to you. And
Mm.
similar to Annie too, right? The ability to hold space and make space for someone is something
Yeah.
you do really, really well. And I
Mm.
think that is I want to say like a mature quality of
Mm.
an older sister who perhaps has the responsibility of making sure that family is okay and taking care of others.
Mm.
That is just innately something you care about. I think that is reflective in you that you are just such a such an even yeah, like an older sister for our group and you really care for other people.
Aw,
Yeah.
thank you. I feel like that's, yeah, I hope so.
For me as like the youngest, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if people see me as a younger you tell me.
I think the kind of like the spicier and like a little bit of the rebel quality, I think I
Yeah.
definitely could see. But you're also incredibly responsible. And I feel like within our group, like you kind of become one of the like key people that will host things and like the things that I would traditionally think of kind of like an older sister in a group dynamic
Yeah,
would
yeah.
provide, right?
Yeah. I don't think our friends see me as like a younger I feel like Mel is the younger sister of the group, and she's also one of the youngest, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But definitely my sister sees me in a different light than our
Mm.
friends do, just because she's seen me from from terrible to like gotten
Yeah.
a lot oh my gosh, I was so unorganized and irresponsible, and now I'm like the complete opposite of that.
You are
So
so organized. Like probably
just
one of the most organized people that I know.
I'm grown. I grew up, y'all. I grew up. Yes.
Do you think does Annie, like, how does she respond to you then? I guess that's
She's
different than our
shocked.
group.
She's shocked. She's like, "Helen, like your luggage is organized. You're not just throwing a bunch of clothes in your luggage. My
Yeah.
luggage is now so organized whenever I go anywhere."
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
the complete opposite of how I used to pack. I used to just be like, "I might want these shorts. I might want this.
Yeah.
And now I literally have an outfit for every day, every morning, afternoon, night,
Yeah. Wait,
PJs, gym
what
clothes, all that.
changed or what caused that I'm curious.
Girl, just life.
What?
I don't even know. I think just I put a lot of weight on myself for
Mm.
whether it's academics or career,
Yeah.
and checking off all these different boxes. Like for some
Yeah.
reason I put that pressure on myself. And maybe it's because I did see Annie do it so easily that I also put that
Mm.
pressure on myself to do that. And I think in order to achieve that, you do have to be organized and responsible
Yeah.
and sort of like always on your A game and not like a mess. And I feel
Mm.
like when you're a mess behind the scenes is when you're a mess like in person, showing up in IRL.
Yeah.
So maybe something changed in me there where I did want to achieve a certain I did want to get to a certain place for myself. And
Mm.
that's what led to the
Ah.
organization and making sure that I was prepared for things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe that's more
Mhm.
personality than a younger sister
It might be.
dynamic.
Yeah. But I do think that there's a playfulness to you that is a playfulness and like a spiciness that I feel like is very
Yeah, I could see that too.
Yeah.
Do you think having a close sister has made you more selective with certain friends?
I think maybe because I have gone through like my relationship with my sister is close, meaning like when your sister goes through challenging times, like you kind of suffer with them a little bit. And also like because I was the kind of the more like together grown up one, I think when she would go through periods of rebellion, I felt like also like a third parent, like I would suffer through it as like feeling responsible for her.
Yeah.
Because of that, I think I am a little bit more, I'm more selective with like who I'm gonna give that attention to.
Yeah.
Because I don't like seeing my friends hurt or it's painful for me, right? So it kind of, I think because you have that relationship from such a young age with someone, you know what it is to like really feel when someone's going through a hard time. It's like, how many other people can I allow into that level? Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. And I think having a sister does. It gives you a certain caliber of a relationship that you deserve in your life. And I feel like with friends, you kind of have to be deliberate about who you want to surround yourself with. When I think in our 20s is when we allowed certain like toxic friendships to come into play.
Yeah.
People who would like badmouth you, were jealous, ill-willed, or whatever. And like we kind of allowed for that. And now in my 30s, I'm just like, no, this is the standard, like my sister and the friends that I keep with me now. And if anyone is not meeting that standard, everyone out there deserves to have a friend who is going to support you and love you and be there for you during like the most difficult times.
Yeah.
So I think having a sister does for sure make me see what an ideal friendship should be like.
Sets the bar high.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. True or false? Your sister meets all your needs as a sister and as a friend.
I think it's unfair to place that whether you want to call it responsibility or whatever it is on any one person. It's too much. Like I don't think there's any one person that can fulfill that. But I think a sister definitely fulfills a huge part of what friends can bring. But I think there are things that friends can bring that your sister can't bring as well, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But I do believe that, Annie, you are everything I need to be.
Oh, sorry, Patty. I feel like
I'll put pressure on you. You know that. No, just kidding. But I agree. Friends, definitely, and romantic partners. There are so many different partners that we encounter in our lives. And it's kind of beautiful that our sisters are our like life partners. They're going to be there with us for the rest of our lives.
That is true. I think the thing about that's interesting about the sister dynamic is you will have to, emotionally, but also tactically with like managing family affairs, it gets a little dark. But when you manage like illness or death in a family, all of those things, like those are things that you would only do with like a partner maybe, and then also maybe with friends. But your sister has like, she touches all of these. It's a relationship where you're going to encounter a lot of things with her and have to work with her and support her and be supported by her.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think especially as women too, they inherently understand us on a certain level and given paired with the context of all of our history, it makes for a really special bond.
It does.
I loved hearing so much about your relationship with Patty and talking about Annie a lot. And she's going to listen to this episode and be like, thanks, Helen. And then not say anything back to me after that. So tell me some good things. I say such good things about her on this podcast.
You do.
And she never reciprocates. Girl, write me a letter.
She's more of maybe she's caring through actions, right? Versus words. Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, thank you all for joining us in today's episode. It was really nice to be able to listen to you share about Annie and me share about Patty. And for any of our listeners out there who also have sisters, curious to leave in the comments, maybe tag your sister. I think this is a nice one to be able to like maybe watch or listen to with your sister and share your personal stories and any thoughts that you might have around what makes like sister relationship different from other friendships and how that really enhances your ability to hold friendships.
And with that, we will catch you all in the next episode.
Bye.
Before we wrap up this episode, we just want to say thank you to those who have joined our ABG besties. Thank you so much for supporting our Supercast. And if you're interested in supporting us, abg.supercast.com.
We want to send a special shout out to this episode's ABG bestie, and that is Maggie Vong. Maggie, thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you so much for listening, and we're excited to be able to share more content with you.